Welcome to another PlayScript video. In today's video, I will show you how to work with scene. PlayScript projects can be broken into scenes. Each scene corresponds to a different part of your project. If you're creating a presentation, you can use scenes to represent slides in your presentation. We use this greater than notation to mark the beginning of the scene. So all the code in between each one of these greater than signs corresponds to the code in one scene. So in this case, we are going to have 3 scenes. Now we are going to give each one of these scenes a name, which is going to make it easier later on to refer to the scene when we want to navigate to it. So we have a title, scene 1, and scene 2. Now, if we click refresh on the toolbar, we will see that we actually get 3 thumbnails, each one for each one of our scenes. And we can actually click on these thumbnails to run the scene and also to navigate to it. Now in this case, there is nothing to run because they don't have any code, but you can see how the code jumps to the right scene. So now we can start by putting some text in the first scene. We're going to give it a title, and it's going to be called Scenes. Now, whoops, made a little mistake. I'm missing a quote here. Okay, now it should work. So I can jump now to the last scene and draw an arrow here, and I can go to the middle scene and draw a rectangle and a circle. We're keeping our scenes pretty simple here. Now, within a scene, the code is going to run sequentially. So I can see, for example, I can define a variable for my rectangle. It's going to be called R. And I can define another variable for my circle. It's going to be called C. And I can actually move the rectangle and the circles around inside my scene. So in this case, I'm going to move them down. Now you can see here that if I play the scene, again by clicking on it, and I can refresh so that I can actually see what's happening in each of these scenes, notice that everything is happening sequentially. But I can use this together command to tell it to actually move both of them together so that they're not moving one and then the other. I can also use wait in order to control the timing. So in this case, it's going to wait 1 second before they start moving. I can also wait for an event. For example, if I use wait event, I can actually give it the name of a key, for example, the right key. And so now it's not going to continue until I press the right key. And then it's going to move. But let's keep it simple and just have our shapes appear and move. Now, if we play from the beginning, you can see that we're in scene 1, but nothing happens because we haven't told it how to transition from one scene to the other. So in scene 1, for example, we can do a handler that says, when you click anywhere on this scene, go to the next scene. And when you click anywhere on scene 1, go to the next scene. Now for scene 2, we can tell it that when you click, we want to go to scene 0. So now, when you click, you go to the next scene, and then from the last scene, you go back to scene 0. We can also navigate using the names. For example, I can tell it that I want to go to the title scene. And so now, when I click, again, I go back to the title scene. I can even add some buttons here in the title scene. For example, I want them to be a very crude navigation bar. So I'm just going to draw a simple shape. And again, we're keeping things simple here just to show you how scenes work. So we're just going to draw these 2 rounded rectangles. We're going to give each one of them a name. And then we are going to add a handler. We're going to tell PlayScript that when you click on S1, we want to go to scene 1. And when you click on S2, we want to go to scene 2. And so now you can just click and it jumps directly to the scene that you indicated by clicking on the right button. Again, very simple, but now you've seen how to create scenes, how to navigate between them, and even how to control the execution within a single scene. Now let's try and do some things that are a little bit more advanced. For example, sometimes when you have a scene that gets very complicated, you might want to break it into multiple scenes. For example, here we are going to take scene 1 and we want to break it into 2 scenes. So we're going to put a marker here with a greater than sign, and we're going to name our scene Scene 1B. Now, if we refresh the thumbnails, you can see that now there's an entry here for Scene 1B, but there's a problem. Nothing is happening in this scene because R and C were defined in another scene. So at this point, those shapes are no longer there, and R and C are just undefined. However, we are going to use the keep command that basically tells PlayScript that this scene is a continuation of the previous scene, and so it should keep around all the shapes from the previous scene, as well as all the variables. So now from scene 1, we can just jump directly to scene 1B, and so everything is going to happen continuously, but now we can see that it has been broken down into these 2 scenes, one that draws the shapes and another one that moves them. And so you can use this to better organize your presentations or your projects so that you can have the right granularity for all the scenes. There's one last bit of functionality that I want to show you, and it has to do with using canvases. So a canvas can be used to draw many things, not to the main screen, but essentially to a canvas on the background that you can then draw directly on the scene. So we create a canvas by giving it a name and a size. So here in scene 2, we're going to create a new canvas, and we're going to call it title canvas. And it's going to have 80 units width and 50 units height. So in PlayScript, all windows actually have 50 height by default, and the width is going to be whatever you set it to. But the 80 is a pretty reasonable size. And so now, inside the canvas, we are just drawing the title scene. So now we can take this canvas that we drew that is just sitting in the background. Nothing happens until we actually draw it on the screen, and we can draw it just like a picture. So we can draw this canvas, make it, for example, a 10 by 10 image, draw it at coordinates 10 by 10, and draw it of size 5. Or we can actually make it a little bit bigger, for example, size 13. We can actually also move it around because it's just an image. Anything that we draw in the canvas at this point is just an image. But for example, we can go back to scene 1 and make some changes to it. Let's say we want to change the background so that it's light blue. And so now, if we go to our last scene, we can see that this canvas now has the original title scene with its now blue background. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can work with scenes and how you can use them to your advantage. As usual, the best way to learn PlayScript is to actually try it out. So until next time, enjoy!